Snowden.
Very much, Mr. Speaker. In what is supposed to be a honeymoon period for a new government, the Prime Minister has sacked his Chief of Staff, forced his City Minister and Transport Secretary to resign, whilst Number 10 has been briefing against the Pensions Secretary, Home Secretary and Education Secretary. Is it not time that the Prime Minister accepts that the root causes at the heart of this government are with him, not them?
We just won a landslide victory. We've got a massive majority. We're getting on with the job. Mr. Speaker, I don't think we saw. Look at the sheer number of ministers that they got through on a yearly basis, causing instability in every conceivable department.
Mr. Speaker, may I associate with the remarks from the Prime Minister regarding the ceasefire and the release of hostages, and let's all pray that the remaining hostages on both sides are released as soon as possible. Since the ceasefire in Gaza came into effect, Israeli forces have placed the whole of the West Bank under strict military inspection as part of the Iron Wall operation. The IDF has launched a large-scale offensive operation in the city of Jenin, with numerous drone strikes on the infrastructure and a military raid by IDF troops and special forces in the occupied West Bank. At least 9 people have been killed by Israeli forces and 40 people injured, including several healthcare workers. What steps is the government taking to urgently protect Palestinians, including healthcare workers, and to prevent atrocities in the West Bank? And will he outline the UK's response to the ICJ advisory opinion on Israel's unlawful occupation?
Minister.
I'm deeply concerned by what's happening in the West Bank. And we've raised it a number of times in the various exchanges that we've had, but I am deeply concerned about it, and we're doing everything we can to alleviate the situation.
Sarah Owen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the past few days, Luton has suffered 2 stabbings, as well as 1 woman murdered, another seriously injured, and a manhunt is currently underway for the suspect. This January alone, there has been at least 12 recorded violent offences in Luton. After decades of being funded as a rural police force, Bedfordshire has had to make do with special grants to tackle serious and violent crime. Does the Prime Minister agree that proper police funding is essential for keeping people in Luton North safe, and will he ensure Bedfordshire Police receive the grants we need to fight crime on our streets?
Well, I thank you for raising this case, and she and I have met far too many families devastated by this senseless violence. We are taking urgent action to ban zombie-style knives and regulating the online sale of knives. It is unacceptable that these murder weapons can be bought with 2 clicks. Technology is there to stop it, and we're going to take action. And on the resources, we're putting an additional 13,000 police into neighbourhood roles and allocating £85 million to Bedfordshire Police in funding to keep her constituents safe.
Paul Davies.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In 2016, I was diagnosed with colon cancer and had excellent treatment at Huddersfield Royal Infirmary. I was one of the lucky ones, as the Tory governments after 2015 failed in the fight against cancer, with over 380,000 patients in England not treated on time. What assurance can the Prime Minister offer Colne Valley residents that the reforms and extra investment he's announced will address this issue?
Prime Minister.
Well, can I start by wishing him a speedy recovery from his recent treatment and thank the doctors and nurses who treated him. Under the previous government, there was no progress made in diagnosing cancer at stage 1 and 2 between 2013 and 2021. That is an appalling inheritance. We are spending £1.5 billion on new surgical hubs and diagnostic scanners to ensure cancer patients get the care that they need. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Eating disorders are the mental health disorder with the highest mortality rate. We have 1.2 million sufferers at least. Some are being told that they are now too ill to be treated, yet eating disorders are entirely treatable. Today, the Eating Disorder APPG is publishing its report of how to make eating disorder services fit for purpose. Can I ask the Prime Minister to pay very close attention to that report?
Prime Minister.
Can I start by recognising her dedicated work and campaigning on this issue for many years. NHS England is expanding eating disorder treatment services, including crisis care and intensive home treatment. And as she knows, the Online Safety Act will prevent children from encountering harmful content that promotes eating disorders to services. And we will look very carefully, obviously, at the report that is being published and consider its recommendations.
Sarah Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tamworth Castle, boasting 1,000 years of history, was recently added to the Heritage at Risk Register following my campaign about its future. Despite needing repairs, it provides a unique and valuable learning environment, welcoming both the public and schools to learn about Tamworth's rich history. Will the Prime Minister come and visit Tamworth Castle to see how an 11th century castle is providing 21st century learning opportunities whilst promoting local heritage?
Prime Minister.
Can I thank you for a kind invitation? I particularly enjoyed Tamworth's recent FA Cup heroics against Tottenham, albeit they didn't quite win. Mr. Speaker, we are committed to protecting our most vulnerable heritage, and I know Historic England is working closely with Tamworth Borough Council to preserve this local treasure for future generations. It's particularly important to continue school visit programmes supporting our mission to get every child the best opportunities in life.
Alison Bennett.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Across England, there are 95,000 students who attend non-academised sixth form colleges. Of those colleges, 32 are currently on strike because the government didn't settle the funding for them back in last summer. I wonder, could the Prime Minister tell me whether he intended to create a two-tier education system for sixth form students who are the victims of the COVID crisis?
Prime Minister.
We have put more money into colleges, and it's really for them to deal with these disputes, as she knows.
Lee Ingham.
Mr. Speaker, from Stafford to Eccleshall to Loggerheads, my constituents are sick and tired of having their properties and businesses devastated by flooding. The last Conservative government did not invest enough in flood prevention measures to stop this from happening. Can the Prime Minister assure me and my constituents that he will prioritise flood prevention investment before the homes and businesses on Sandon Road in Stafford disappear completely into Sandyford Brook?
Prime Minister.
Well, my sympathies go to her constituents. Far too many are experiencing terrible flooding. I visited there last year and met them, and they talked me through the misery of their experience. We inherited flood defences in their worst condition on record. We are now investing £2.4 million in flood defences to better protect communities, and committed £60 million to support farmers impacted by the extreme weather.
Rebecca Smith.
Thank you. 2-year mortgages have hit 5%. Borrowing is billions above forecast. Retail sales have slumped. Does the Prime Minister still believe the Chancellor is doing a good job?
I thought she was just reading out their last record.
Final question, Matt Turmin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Excuse me. Before the last election, the Conservatives baselessly promised a fully funded scheme to deliver a new Watford hospital, something they have failed to achieve in 14 years. Does the Prime Minister share my frustration and that of my constituents that they unforgivably failed to budget for its construction, and Watford will only get its new hospital built and paid for thanks to the properly planned approach of this Labour government?
I'm not surprised his constituents are frustrated. There was never a plan. The funding only ever existed in Boris Johnson's imagination. It was pure fiction, and they know it. We have an affordable and delivery plan to build these new hospitals, and that includes Watford General, and we'll be getting on with it.